Well, done a lot of journaling over the years. Uh, the other day uh, I was hearing these tones. Let's see, solfeggio. I was listening to these healing tones. They're called solfeggio healing tones. It's pretty interesting sounds, anyway. Uh, and I woke up with a thought that I would normally just write down in my journal. And like I say, I've journaled for many years now. Thought maybe I'll just put it here. And then I'm just basically going to kind of talk to myself like I would in my own journal. Then you have some sort of idea what kinds of things um, are an example of something that I might explore. Anyways, let's see. So, um, yeah, I had this thought that, if you do have a spectrum, uh, of, say, a thought, you have a thought, and there's say, this is clearly a positive thought, and this is clearly a negative thought, and then you have, different points along the way where, you can't really, or it's a mixture of both of them or whatever. Uh, but you have a spectrum of thoughts, positive or negative. Then had a part of this was that there could be an amplitude of a thought, adding an axis. They call this the x-axis, and this is the y-axis, and that uh, perhaps there's a thought here, and wherever it lands on this axis, and then if you take the amplitude of that thought, then you have two axes, and that you might be able to pinpoint the thought by using a square or an inverse square. But let's see, amplitude. I was going to talk about amplitude. So let's say, for example, you have a thought that you need water. I'm thirsty. You have a thought. Well, it's definitely a positive to have. If you know you need water, it's positive to have a thought that you need water. And maybe just in your normal day, you're just kind of, you have a thought, oh, I could use some water, and it's at its average amplitude. Or another time, you might be like, holy mackerel, I need some water right now. I'm extremely thirsty. Well, then, that'd be a higher amplitude. And then maybe there's a different point where you think, while you're going on a long walk, and you just get started, and there's a faint, distant thought that you have that you're thirsty and that you should address that. So then that would be, call this the average, and this is loud and this is quiet. Uh, so then, that there could be oh, let's see. So if you have a person here, you could, let's say you have a thought and it's here, and this is, you could sort of pinpoint that thought there. But if uh, if you were to look at the person face on, excuse me, this way, then maybe that thought is it's got a third axis, a z-axis, and that this thought could be found using x, y, and z. So then you could use the cube law, or the inverse cube, to pinpoint that thought. And then let's see. So one thing about the brain, well, we've mapped out a lot of the brain's functions and everything, and that there might be. I mean, almost all the functions of the brain have been mapped out already. So if you could pinpoint a thought somewhere and locate it using the square law, or square or inverse square, or the cube or inverse cube, you might be able to pinpoint it with some pretty good accuracy. And let's see, synapses. Can I draw a synapse? How a synapse looks or works. There's it kind of an electrical signal that goes across. Well, there are places, let's say, if you do a lot of some type of work, you're using that spot a lot. So, you might have a lot of activity going through that one spot. A lot of activity. So then when you are pinpointing this in terms of the whole, person, then there's a spot there that is really heavily put to a lot of use. And then if you combine that with amplitude and positivity and negativity and function, or meaning what type of thought or skill or whatever, you could possibly really narrow it down or pinpoint where that thing is coming from a lot. And you might be able to use that for things like mapping out ideas, or curing diseases. Or another thing I thought of about stroke. Let's say, let's say you've located where a stroke is, and that's where that spot is, has to do with a certain function. And when that stroke happens in that location, then that function is diminished. However, there's a thing that happens where when you can't use that function, there's maybe another end of a thing. Like if you picture almost a hose or a pipe or something, and let's say there's a stroke has happened here, and over here there's other skills that are all feeding into that, and it's like can't do this thing, but can do all of these things really well. And that this thing, not just for stroke, but like I say, also for mapping out ideas, or however, ideas, solving diseases, things like that, that you might be able to use all these random things to pinpoint what's happening on the other end of sort of like a pipe or tube or whatever, that sort of thing. And we know for sure that the left brain and right brain, they have their dominant skills and tasks and everything. So let's see, I think that's mainly what I meant to put down in my journal today. Or well, this was a few days ago, I guess, but it gets at the main ideas. And this is one of many, many, many types of things that I follow or explore, and this is but a seed of an idea. But I have piles and piles of silos full of seeds. Some of them get planted, some of them grow into all kinds of different things, and I don't know about this one. Can't say for sure, but I write them down anyway, and sometimes they turn into something. So yeah, that's a little bit of what sharing a bit of my private world with you, where you get to see what it's like when I talk to myself in my own journal. All righty.